Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Propagandacast, this one with a slightly more extraordinary episode, since there have been some requests, and I do believe I just got this match, which I figured I'd show off, since there have been some slightly more perverse requests. By perverse, I will be showing you by the end what you mean. I hope you are proud of yourselves, you few who asked for this. Anyhow, so let's get on with this. We are seeing a small match in Semois, the quaint French town somewhere in France. In this case, it will be somewhere near Festung Brest, as the American 28th Division is digging in for the night. The 344th Grenadier Division moves in for the kill under the command of Hauptmann Shank, and who shall be leading the defense but none other than Captain Dane. So let's get on with this. This being an ominous night, dark clouds. No moon, I believe. Yes, indeed. A very dark and ominous night, most foreboding, as the Americans dig in and prepare for the onslaught. And of course, the Germans were usually the types to rely on night attacks on the western front. On the eastern one, it wasn't. It was both sides, both being awfully aggressive, and usually accounts say that troops from the eastern front who were then moved on to the western front usually found that, oh wait, this is sort of like a vacation right here, since they didn't have to worry about getting attacked in the night by brutal Soviet soldiers. And we are seeing a swift Wehrmacht quarters going up. Usually means an MG42 or perhaps a bike, but I'm going to guess for an MG42. And of course the usual barracks start with riflemen right here. So nothing unusual there. And we are seeing Hauptmann Shank is lagging a bit. Sometimes they can mean absolutely nothing, and sometimes they can cause some rather annoying disturbances as orders are passed on to the wrong unit, usually in terms of retreat. But there you go. And seizing some points, first rifleman team hits the field. So all nice and dandy there. And we are seeing the MG42 moving towards a southern approach, a bit unusual. You rarely see this, at least I rarely see this, in fact, on Semois, considering that this area tends to be the major hotspot of the fight. Again, victory point and all that, and of course nice buildings, which does offer some interesting combat, but no, instead he's going for the southern approach. What might he do, set up here, or perhaps here? I cannot say. We will have to see what will happen. Engineers seizing territory in the north, pioneers right nearby, and further riflemen of course approaching. Meanwhile, I'm going for the west, central and eastern position. Riflemen going towards the center, engineers towards the east, and looks like he's setting up here, hoping to cover this area. And of course this point, certainly an interesting move, not something I've seen before of course, and it's certainly going to something that's catching me off guard. Of course I'll be learning from this in the future, but of course quite unusual, and hopefully some might be learning from this and get some ideas, of course, that hey, this could be useful, but of course setting up MG42s can also lead to some disadvantages. Volkswagen is moving towards the center here, perhaps hoping to engage some riflemen, seizing up a position in a nice building, I can't say. Further riflemen arriving, so all nice and good there. Volkswagen is sneaking about, and looks like they will run right into the riflemen, right across the open spot right behind this church, and there we go, small engagement. Volkswagen is pulling back up behind cover of the house, certainly not a bad move. Riflemen not entirely sure what to expect, pull up behind their own, but as they see the Volkswagen is up pulling back, they go on the offensive, in particular now as the second team is moving in, constituting thus a large squad of riflemen, and firing away at the Volkswagen, so certainly not in a slightly happy position. Rifleman right here behind the building might want to try getting into it, and one is cut down as he crosses the street. Again, heavy negative cover, like roads right here, is usually the last place you want to be in, and of course any opponent that can actually make you prolong the time right out there is having quite the advantage. MG42 setting up, and of course right out in the middle of the road, not good at all. Swiftly suppressed, taking quite a bit of damage. One rifleman down, another down, as the barrage of MG42 bullets continues. I'm trying to get them into the building, but of course I've sort of forgotten, apparently not realized, that there's only one door, and it's right in the front of the MG42. Rifleman taking heavy damage, will have to get out of there. Rifleman sneaking in from the rear, hoping to flank, but the MG42 is swiftly away, and the bunker right here nearby is quick to suppress, firing away. Of course, a bit interesting that can happen here. The other one right here can't cover this far. So that's one of the few interesting things about here. And rifleman moving in here. Not entirely sure what's going here. This is probably more of a small forgetfulness from my part, as I'm of course more concerned with the retreat of my forces and all of this going on, as I'm been catched rather wrong-footed by all of this. Further foes arriving on the field, and engineers and riflemen are forced into a full rout. Not looking good for me, having suffered some rather brutal losses right in the beginning. So we shall see what happens now.
The Germans are after one of our munitions points.
Quick to seize all that is mine. Foes Grenadiers fanning out, some seeking back for reinforcements and recuperations. MG42 sitting up in this building, thus granting him some bits, and I'm of course getting the weapon support center, since I always like to go for mortars when my opponent digs in, at which point blowing them apart usually is a nice option. And another Foes Grenadier team, thus giving him 3 Foes Grenadier teams and 2 MG42 teams. Rather hefty tier 1 move, certainly not I'm not gonna say unusual, but in most of my games I'm rarely seeing it. I've seen it in some of the higher games, and for example watching some of the tournament play, I saw it was certainly one of the more common, that and 2 Foes Grenadiers and then 2 heavy machine guns, but that was it. But I've not really experienced it myself, and this is of course certainly something that's going to be catching me a bit off guard. This alongside with this building right being occupied, but hopefully the mortar will be able to overcome this nasty surprise. Riflemen turning back those pioneers here, but 2 Foes Grenadier teams, i.e. a small Foes Grenadier squad, will be able to put an end to that. Mines being laid down here in case something decides to follow down this small road. Firing away right at those riflemen, not looking good at all. Moving towards through here, hoping to flank, but Foes Grenadiers are quick to stop them. But the Foes Grenadiers are under actual fire, and looks like they're suffering very heavily themselves. 2 down already, another down, another Foes Grenadier scorched, trying to get away, not retreating, and the MG42 I wager is repositioning, hoping to get the fire on those engineers, and there we go. Not good at all, but another Foes Grenadier does catch on fire, but there is still one left. But mortar is on the field, ready to fire away at this gun right there, and engineers are quick to set up in the building. Foes Grenadiers continue their advance in the west, and receiving some reinforcements right here. Not looking too good. And now riflemen joining into the fun as well, getting suppressed, taking a few losses, rather hoping to sort of catch the MG42 team as it gets out of there. And only 1 man left, but he still is in there. Riflemen looks like they will have to get back. Not the best move there, I admit. Sometimes I do have a tendency of getting a bit too bold, aggressive, and I usually get those sort of losses. But again, sometimes those things can pay off, and sometimes they cost you dearly. That's sort of the point of risk taking. Sometimes it really works, and sometimes it works not at all. Mortar team setting up, but of course unawares that the Foes Grenadier team is away, but there we go. And of course pulling them back, but not full retreating. I'm not entirely keen on that. Setting up the MG42 in heavy cover to cover this approach, but of course if I were and could sneak in there, might have changed, but that was not to happen. Instead, pulling back that mortar team behind a cover of infantry, forcing those Foes Grenadiers back behind cover. And we shall have to see what happens. Veterancy 1, so we are seeing a Kampfkraft Center really investing heavily into tier 1. And now MP40 is being equipped as well, but they are forced into retreat. 1 Foes Grenadier going down, but the rest are making it out of there alive. MG42 continuing to cover this point, and a supply yard is up as well. Engineers and whatnot receiving some reinforcements, and we do see a Foes Grenadier team a bit wounded moving in, apparently keen on doing a bit of harassment. Heavy machine gun is ready as well. I'm rather hoping to sort of catch all those Foes Grenadiers off guard, but of course that might have been the wrong move. He's really a spammer, he's not a blobber, so again it's a bit of a gamble. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. In fact, most of the time it doesn't work in these cases, I fear. And MG42 moving apart, getting caught on the wrong foot, and in fact I might have been better off getting a 4th rifleman team in this case. But there you go, riflemen getting caught out in the open. Not looking good at all. Might want to retreat them, but no, I finish, and I apparently am very keen on trying to keep those Foes Grenadiers there, so I move them about, but this is not a really best move for riflemen, taking quite a bit of damage. Pioneers also being caught out here, so I'm rather forced to suddenly keep my ass in 2 points. And I lose one rifleman team in the process. I wager, there we go. Rifleman team is lost while the other one is forced to retreat from the center. And by accident, the heavy machine gun team is also pulled back. Something I can't help but feel might have been the result of that lagging that went about, as sometimes that can mean a certain order is passed on to another unit as well, which has just been recently selected. I'm not entirely sure how it goes on, in fact, but I was certainly not entirely pleased. Heavy machine gun swiftly being rerouted to the battlefield. Motor pool going up, hoping to get me some armored cars. And mortar setting up, and the Pioneers seizing this strategic cutoff point, but I'm currently not having much territory. While in the here we are seeing a half-track firing away. This being a bit unusual, since I'm in fact again used to more Puma rush sort of tactics from most Wehrmacht commanders in these cases. Instead he's in fact taking a much more steady and measured approach, going for infantry, going for half-tracks, and of course guarding himself against what I have. Certainly not a bad move, and of course not entirely sure what to do with him again. I'm sort of expecting him to go for Pumas, in which case the heavy machine gun can also help. But if he doesn't again, I'm sort of, oh dear, what I'm supposed to do. So certainly not a bad move, which is certainly catching me a bit off on the wrong foot. And now veterancy 2 for the infantry, making those force grenadiers a bit more sturdy and protecting them from suppression as well. Half-track moving in from the north, perhaps hoping to continue this rain of sneaking about and suppressing, an MG42 setting left behind, perhaps might want to cover this point. And we are seeing a small engagement here, Volksgrenadiers and MG42 moving into the cemetery, and we are seeing these Volksgrenadiers forced a bit back as mortar rounds fly in. Riflemen moving in, but they are not looking in a good position, standing out on the open, and now MG42 standing up upon them. Riflemen are trying to get out of there, and they do barely get out of there in the nick of time. In the meanwhile, we are seeing the Volksgrenadiers seizing this point. Of course, with skirmish phase, they are getting increased capture rate. But T-17 moving in, trying to put a stop to that. Firing away with its gun, hitting, but not killing. And instead, we are seeing a Panzerfaust going off. Damaging, but not enough to certainly stop it. So it continues firing away at those Volksgrenadiers while the half-track gets away. And Volksgrenadiers here not looking too good. I've gotten those engineers so they were killed. Not a happy moment. Riflemen setting up here to sort of protect the flank. Perhaps being a bit too defensive at the moment, but again I sort of attacked on all points, and I'm having a bit of a frustrational moment with all of these things just not working quite right. Not an excuse, but certainly an explanation why sometimes mistakes can be made. And we are seeing Pioneers moving in from the north with the flamethrowers. What shall happen? The 344th Grenadier Division has certainly managed to hold the line under the command of the wily Hauptmann Shank. And flamethrowers moving in, setting up in this building, of course flanking it and getting out of the range, of course forcing the heavy machine gun out of the building, not leaving me the most happy person. Bombarding this central point, perhaps hoping to force out any MG42s that might be there in preparation for an assault. And we are seeing a half-track moving in, and the